I had always trusted Emma completely. We had been together for almost 3 years, living together in a small apartment on the edge of the city, sharing routines, secrets, and dreams, or so I thought. That evening started like any other. I had just finished a long day at work and settled onto the couch with my laptop, ready to catch up with her on a video call before she went out for the night. She had mentioned hanging out with her friends, but nothing seemed unusual. I clicked the video chat, and she appeared on screen with her usual smile, lighting up the screen in a way that had made me fall in love with her in the first place. We talked about our days, the usual mundane things, until she suddenly seemed distracted, glancing behind her, smiling in a way that made my stomach twist. I assumed she was just joking with someone else in the room, but then I noticed her lowering her voice, and her eyes darting toward the side where my camera could only catch part of the background. My heart started beating faster, but I brushed it off, thinking maybe she was just being playful. Then she moved in a way that made my stomach drop entirely. Someone else was in the room with her, someone I could see only partially at first. I froze, my hands gripping the laptop, trying to process what I was seeing. The person wasn't meant to be there. My mind raced as I watched her lean closer, laughing softly, whispering words I couldn't hear clearly at first. But soon, I realized the way she looked at him. The touch that lingered too long on his arm. The subtle movement that would have meant nothing in any other context, but here, in my living room. Through the fragile window of a video call, it was unmistakable. I leaned closer, straining to hear, my chest tightening with every passing second. She laughed, and his hand moved toward her, brushing her hair back in a way that made my stomach turn. My mind refused to accept it at first, but the evidence was right there in front of me, frozen in pixels and light, undeniable. I wanted to look away, to shut the laptop and pretend it wasn't happening, but some sick part of me couldn't. I had to know everything. That's when she leaned down, seemingly unaware that my video feed was still live. She adjusted the camera, turning her face toward him, and for a horrifying second, our eyes met through the reflection on the screen. I froze, unsure if she had noticed, but then she smiled at him, whispered something, and moved closer, her hand brushing his in a way that made my chest tighten painfully. My mind was spinning, unable to comprehend how this could be happening. I had trusted her completely, shared everything with her, and yet here I was, witnessing a reality that shattered every illusion I had clung to. The rest of the call went on, and I stayed there, pretending to be casual, asking meaningless questions while trying to process the betrayal unfolding before me. My throat felt dry, my hands trembled slightly as I forced a smile at the camera, hoping she didn't notice my discomfort. But my mind couldn't stop racing. How long had this been happening? Was this the first time, or had she been doing this for weeks, months? The images and movements on the screen kept replaying in my mind in a loop, making it impossible to focus on her words. Then came the moment that made my heart drop completely. She leaned in, closer than she should have, and whispered something to him that I could almost hear. "Don't worry, he'll never know." Those words cut deeper than any slap, any insult I could have imagined. It wasn't just the act, it was the intention, the certainty that she believed she could betray me without consequence. My stomach turned, a mix of rage and heartbreak twisting inside me, and yet I felt paralyzed, unable to interrupt, unable to speak, unable to breathe properly. I stayed there, on the call, watching, analyzing every gesture, every glance, every breath, waiting for her to realize, waiting for some sign that she would notice me, but she never did. Hours, or maybe it was only minutes, passed, and I sat there, trapped in a bubble of disbelief, watching her flirt, tease, and betray in real time. And then it happened. The moment that would haunt me forever. She leaned forward, fully intimate, laughing with him, completely unaware that the camera still captured everything. I realized then that this wasn't a mistake, it wasn't a slip, it was intentional, a calculated act of deception, and I had witnessed it from start to finish. My mind was screaming, yet outwardly, I had to remain calm. My fingers hovering over the keyboard, debating whether to confront her immediately or gather proof. But my heart knew the truth, and that truth was unbearable. The person she was with, the touch, the laughter, the secret whispers, all of it burned into my memory. And as she finally hung up, smiling as if the entire conversation had been innocent, I sat there, frozen, unable to move, unable to speak, knowing that everything I thought I knew about us, about her, about love, had just been erased in the span of a video call. The room felt colder, emptier, and I realized in that moment that life would never be the same, and that what I had just witnessed was only the beginning of a nightmare I wasn't prepared to navigate. I had caught her, yes, but she hadn't caught me. And now, I had a choice. What would I do with the truth? I didn't sleep that night. My mind replayed every second of that video call, every glance, every touch, every whispered word that Emma thought I would never see. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the wall, my phone clutched tightly in my hand, debating whether to confront her immediately or gather more evidence. The rational part of me wanted proof, wanted to be sure before I destroyed what we had built together, but the burning anger in my chest made rational thinking nearly impossible. The next morning, Emma woke up as if nothing had happened, humming while making coffee, her carefree smile stabbing me like a knife. I forced myself to act normal, greeting her softly, my voice neutral, my expression calm, but inside, every nerve in my body was screaming. I needed to know more. Over the next few days, I started paying closer attention, subtly checking her messages, watching her phone when she wasn't around, listening to the way she laughed at texts, the way she moved when she thought I wasn't looking. And slowly, the pattern emerged. She was hiding things, lying about where she was, who she was seeing. Every explanation sounded rehearsed, every alibi too perfect. My heart sank further with each small discovery, each hidden truth confirming the suspicion that had taken root in my mind the night of the video call. And then, I made a decision. I needed to confront her, but not recklessly, not in a way that would allow her to escape or manipulate the truth. I needed control, a way to ensure that I understood everything before making any irreversible choices. I created a fake scenario, pretending to be busy with work late into the night, deliberately leaving the apartment empty. I watched as she moved around, completely unaware that I had set up cameras. Hidden in places I had noticed her most often kept her phone or belongings. Hours passed, and the footage started revealing a side of her I had never seen before. She wasn't just with one person. There were multiple times when strangers would come and go, her expressions changing depending on who was around, the laughter, the touch, the secrecy. It all unfolded before me in vivid, undeniable clarity. My mind was a storm of emotions, rage, sorrow, disbelief, and a strange, cold determination. I realized that this wasn't just a one-time betrayal. This was a pattern, a choice she had made, and I had to decide whether I wanted to confront it or use it to my advantage. The turning point came unexpectedly. One evening, as I was reviewing the footage, I saw a moment that made my blood run cold. Emma was on a video call again, but this time, it wasn't just playful whispers or subtle touches. It was explicit, intimate, with someone I recognized from previous hidden meetings. And yet, she believed she was completely hidden, completely untouchable, and the audacity of it made my head spin. I realized then that she had no concept of the consequences, no awareness that someone she trusted could see everything. The power shift was intoxicating, but it also terrified me. I was standing on the edge of a precipice, knowing that the next move I made could destroy everything, or give me the answers I needed. And then, in a split second of impulsive curiosity and calculated risk, I decided to enter the same video call without her knowledge. I created a secondary account, muted my microphone, hidden my presence, and joined. The screen loaded, and there she was, laughing, leaning in, whispering promises that weren't meant for me, completely unaware that I was in the chat. I watched, heart pounding, as the situation unfolded live. She smiled at him, whispered assurances, touched his arm, all while the camera captured every moment of betrayal. But then, something unexpected happened. He hesitated, glanced at the screen with a puzzled look, and I saw her expression change subtly, a flicker of fear passing through her eyes. She whispered urgently, words I couldn't hear clearly, but the tone was unmistakable, panic. And then the call froze. The connection dropped suddenly, leaving me staring at a blank screen, my pulse racing, my mind screaming questions. Had she realized? Had he? Was this the moment where everything would unravel, or was it only the beginning of a deeper, more twisted game I had unknowingly stepped into? I sat there, frozen, the tension unbearable, realizing that the truth I had sought had come with consequences I couldn't yet predict, and that the next move, my move, would determine everything. My heart told me one thing. I couldn't go back to pretending, couldn't ignore the betrayal. But my mind warned me that rushing in blindly could destroy not just her lies, but my own life as well. And in that suffocating silence, the unanswered question haunted me. Did she know I was still in the chat, or had fate just given me a glimpse of her world before it all fell apart? The storm of betrayal, deception, and secrets had only just begun. And I was standing in the eye of it, unsure whether I would survive the hurricane. The next morning, I woke up with a heaviness I couldn't shake, my mind still trapped in the images of Emma's betrayal. I decided I needed to act carefully, to gather the full picture before confronting her. I started monitoring her routine more meticulously, noting the time she left the apartment, the patterns in her phone usage, the subtle signals that hinted at deception. I wasn't proud of it, but every instinct screamed that I couldn't trust her anymore. Days turned into a week, and the evidence piled up. Text messages I wasn't meant to see, deleted calls that reappeared in notifications, glimpses of conversations she thought were private. But the breaking point came unexpectedly. One evening, as I was reviewing the hidden camera footage, I saw something that made my blood run cold. It wasn't just her cheating, it was a plan. She had been arranging meetings, scheduling secret calls, and coordinating with someone in a way that suggested premeditation, not just a fleeting mistake. My stomach dropped as I realized the scope of her deceit. This wasn't a momentary lapse. It was a pattern, a carefully orchestrated betrayal that spanned weeks, maybe months. I felt both horror and an odd sense of clarity. I knew then that confronting her directly without proof would be useless. She would lie, deflect, or manipulate the situation. I needed absolute certainty, an undeniable record of everything she had done. That night, I stayed awake, my laptop open, my eyes glued to the screen as I set up a plan to catch her in real time again. I joined another video call she was making, this time making sure to be completely invisible, muted, with the camera off, watching as she moved through the room with the same confidence and charm she always displayed. But then something unexpected happened. Another figure entered the frame, someone I didn't recognize immediately, but the way Emma's body language shifted, the subtle tensing, the nervous glance toward the camera, made my pulse spike. She wasn't just cheating with one person. She had expanded the circle, bringing others into the web she had spun. My heart raced as I tried to make sense of it. I had imagined confrontations before, imagined how I would react, but seeing it live, watching her betray trust repeatedly, was a different kind of agony. I realized then that I had a choice: expose her immediately, or continue to observe, learn everything, and decide how to use this knowledge. The decision wasn't easy, but my curiosity and the need for control over the situation pushed me to continue. Over the next few days, I became a ghost in my own life, watching her, gathering proof, noting the details that would make it impossible for her to deny. And then, something happened that I hadn't anticipated. One of her secret calls went wrong. She was distracted, laughing with someone on the screen when her phone buzzed. She glanced at the notification and froze. I watched, my stomach twisting, as she scrambled, muttering under her breath, clearly panicked. For the first time, I saw a crack in her carefully constructed facade. And then the worst moment of all, she accidentally sent a message meant for the other person directly to me. My hand shook as I opened it. The words confirmed everything: the dates, the meetings, the lies, every detail I had feared. She didn't realize she had exposed herself to the one person she had betrayed the most. I sat there, stunned, the weight of the revelation pressing down on me. Everything I had feared was true, and yet the temptation to act, to confront, to explode, was almost unbearable. I realized that she had been living a double life, and the realization hit harder because I had been so close all along, watching, waiting, unable to intervene. My mind raced, thinking through the next steps. I could confront her now, but would that give me the control I needed, or would it let her manipulate the situation one last time? I could gather more evidence, but each day she continued her lies, continuing the betrayal, and that thought filled me with rage. And then I had an idea, a plan so dangerous, so precise, that it could expose her completely without giving her a chance to lie, to manipulate, or to deny. I started setting it up immediately, carefully, knowing that one mistake could backfire completely. I hacked into the schedule of her calls, creating a controlled environment where I could witness everything, unseen and untouchable, ensuring that nothing would escape my eyes. Hours turned into nights, and I barely slept, consumed by a single thought: justice. And then, the moment came. Emma joined a video call, expecting the usual secrecy, the usual manipulation. She didn't know that I had orchestrated the entire setup, that every action she took would be recorded, every word captured. And as she leaned in, smiling, whispering promises that were never meant for me, I watched, my hands gripping the laptop, my heart a storm of emotions. The betrayal, the rage, the heartbreak, It all collided into a single point of clarity. I knew the next move would change everything. The stage was set, and I was ready to expose the truth, no matter the consequences. The night I decided to confront Emma, I felt a strange mixture of anticipation and dread, knowing that everything I had uncovered would come to light in just a few hours. I had spent days meticulously preparing, ensuring that every proof of her betrayal was undeniable, from screenshots to hidden camera footage, to the live recordings of her secret calls. I didn't want an argument, a fight, or empty apologies. I wanted the full truth, and I wanted her to see that there was no hiding anymore. That evening, I pretended to leave the apartment, acting as if I was going out for work, and then silently returned, hiding in the shadows as Emma moved through our home, unsuspecting. She made a few casual phone calls, laughed in a way that once would have made me smile, but now made my stomach turn. I watched as she unknowingly walked right into the trap I had set. I initiated a call from my secondary account, joining one of her usual secret video chats, completely hidden, and this time, everything was captured in a live feed I could control. She entered the call, smiling, but immediately froze when she saw the interface that indicated someone else was present. Her eyes widened, and for the first time, I saw genuine fear. She tried to play it off, typing quickly, but her words were frantic, her tone panicked. I realized then that she hadn't expected me to be this prepared, hadn't expected the tables to be turned so completely. My pulse raced as I watched her scramble, realizing that every lie, every secret meeting, every betrayal, was now exposed to someone who had been watching from the shadows, waiting. And then, the unexpected happened. One of the people she was cheating with appeared on the call as well, confused, looking at her in shock as the video feed made it clear that they had been recorded and observed. Emma's face went pale, and the panic in her eyes was something I had never seen before. Her hand shook, her voice cracked, and she finally realized the full weight of what she had done and what I had discovered. But the twists didn't end there. As she tried to explain, trying to lie her way out of the situation, I noticed subtle cues in her behavior, hesitations, micro-expressions that revealed deeper secrets. I pushed further, asking questions about meetings I hadn't yet revealed, watching her reactions closely. Her face faltered, confirming things even before she spoke. Every denial, every attempt to manipulate, only dug her deeper into the truth I already knew. And then, in a moment that stunned me, she made a critical mistake. In her panic, she sent a private message meant for one of her lovers to the group chat I had set up. The contents were explicit, detailing not only her ongoing affairs but also intentions and plans that went beyond anything I had imagined. My heart raced as I read, realizing that the betrayal was far more complex, far more deliberate than I had even suspected. I could see the full extent now. She had manipulated, lied, and deceived on multiple fronts, and the network of secrets she had built was extensive. But amidst the anger and heartbreak, another thought struck me. This wasn't just about betrayal anymore, it was about power, about control, and about how far someone could go to manipulate those they claimed to love. I felt a dark satisfaction knowing that the evidence was now in my hands, that I had orchestrated a scenario where she could no longer hide. Yet even as I watched, part of me trembled at the realization of how much damage had been done, not just to our relationship, but to trust itself, to the foundation of everything we had built. And just when I thought the climax had passed, just when I believed I had seen the full extent of her deception, another twist emerged. Emma's expression changed as she realized the person on the other end of the call, the one I had caught her with initially, was now watching. Panicked, and they started typing in a way that suggested their own hidden motives. I realized then that the web of lies extended further than I had imagined, that the betrayal wasn't limited to Emma's actions alone, but involved others whose agendas I had yet to uncover. My heart pounded as I realized that the confrontation was far from over, that the story was still unfolding, and that each second of this live exposure was rewriting everything I thought I knew. The tension was unbearable, the suspense thick, as I waited for the next move, knowing that the truth I had fought so hard to uncover had shifted from a private betrayal to a multi-layered scandal, one that could ruin lives, alter relationships, and change everything forever. And in that moment, I understood that catching her was only the beginning, that navigating the fallout, the lies, the unexpected alliances, and the intricate twists of deceit was the real challenge, and that the final act, the ultimate revelation, was still yet to come. The final night of exposure arrived like a storm I could neither escape nor control. I had spent days preparing, ensuring every piece of evidence was compiled, every recording timestamped, every message backed up, and now the moment had come to reveal the full truth. I sat in front of the laptop, my pulse racing, as Emma entered the call once more, unaware that this was the culmination of everything I had orchestrated. She smiled nervously, glancing around, sensing tension but unable to place it, and I held my breath, watching her every move. I started the feed, displaying every hidden call, every message, every secret meeting she had orchestrated, projecting them in real time. Her expression shifted gradually from confusion to panic as she saw the undeniable evidence of her betrayal. I watched her try to speak, but no words came out, her voice caught in her throat. The web she had spun so carefully was unraveling before her eyes, each layer of deception laid bare in the cold, glowing light of the screen. And then, the most shocking revelation hit. I displayed the footage of the other person she had been involved with, the one she had trusted to keep secrets, watching in disbelief as his own role in the betrayal became apparent. Emma froze, realizing that her network of lies had entangled multiple people, and that she could no longer control the narrative. Panic set in, and I could see her hands trembling, her composure shattering. I felt a complex swirl of emotions: triumph, heartbreak, sorrow, and an almost hypnotic satisfaction in the justice I had orchestrated. But just as I thought the storm had reached its peak, a final twist emerged. One of her lovers started sending messages in the live chat, revealing that they, too, had been aware of parts of her deception. The truth was far more layered than I had imagined. Emma had been manipulating not just me, but everyone around her, and now the truth was exploding in real time, leaving no one untouched. I realized then that the betrayal was not simply a personal act, it was a web of manipulation, deceit, and calculated lies that extended beyond anything I could have anticipated. And yet, amidst the chaos, I found clarity. I saw her, defeated, exhausted, and terrified, and I knew that the only power left was mine. I had witnessed everything, documented everything, and now, for the first time, I had a choice. I could destroy her completely, make the betrayal public, ruin every aspect of her life, or I could take control in a different way, one that ensured the lesson was learned but without descending into outright vengeance. I took a deep breath and decided to confront her directly, face to face, armed with every piece of evidence. When she finally realized she could no longer hide, when she looked into my eyes and saw the depth of hurt and betrayal, she collapsed into silence. The words she finally whispered were weak, apologies that felt hollow, promises that now meant nothing. I realized then that trust had been shattered beyond repair, and the relationship we had built could never exist again. Yet the story didn't end with destruction alone. I had learned something crucial about control, deception, and human nature, the way people can mask reality, manipulate perception, and betray those closest to them. I left the apartment that night with a heavy heart but a clear mind, knowing that while the heartbreak would linger, I had regained control of my life. The experience had been brutal, devastating, and eye-opening, and I understood that moving forward, I could never take trust for granted again. Emma's betrayal had been profound, calculated, and unforgivable, but witnessing it, confronting it, and surviving it had transformed me, teaching me a lesson about vigilance, resilience, and the complexities of human relationships that no one could ever take away. As I walked into the night, leaving behind the apartment filled with memories and lies, I realized something fundamental. I had caught her. Yes, but more importantly, I had caught the truth. And that truth was mine to carry, a burden and a lesson that would shape every decision, every relationship, every trust one would ever give again.